All right, so let's get back to my slam dunks on presuppositional apologetics. Now, the word skepticism itself. Be somewhat skeptical of this claim, but I'm pretty sure it can be can be traced back to Hume. I'm almost positive of that, but I importantly think that what he originally meant is be skeptical of metaphysics. If that's not actually what he originally meant by it, that's where skepticism of metaphysics was born, in Humeanism, empiricism. There has been a trend in modern thought, okay? And the atheist who appears today is a logical outcome of these metaphysical priors, these philosophical priors, these philosophical presuppositions. In other words, if a lot of these things hold, like materialism, atheism is a logical byproduct, a logical outcome. It's a normal, if X, then Y, presuppositional apologetic. So skepticism about metaphysics was born with Hume. Whether that's originally what he meant by the term skepticism, I'm not sure. I'm just guessing at that. I could be wrong about that. But skepticism about metaphysics began more or less with him in his school of thought. And it's heavily influential on the atheist community today. The only philosopher that I think Matt Dillahunty has read for sure is Hume. It's the only one he ever cites, and he's very influential on his thought. Occam's razor, he also brings up every once in a while. Now, there's a logical thought pattern that ended in logical positivism. Logical positivism came and went. And the term I use, scientism, when I was in that debate on Steve's channel, the atheist edge guy said it's a pejorative. It's a pejorative too bad. A lot of atheists in today's world are in fact scientismists. You ask them, even famous people like Neil deGrasse Tyson, scientism roughly translates to the idea that philosophy is dead. Wouldn't surprise me if Richard Dawkins said exactly, all of them, these were influences of the Four Horsemen, all of these trains of thought can be traced back to Hume, and they are heavily influencing the atheist community to this day. They are the metaphysical priors, the philosophical presuppositions that undergird atheism as, it's not a worldview craze. that's another buzzword. If you say it's not a worldview craze, whatever it is. It's not a belief. That's another one from, what is that supposed to mean? It's not a belief, Craig. It's some sort of mysterious superposition above all. I don't know. So, okay. So, getting back to the subject at hand. A scientismist. Now, the definition that I'm using still shows up in the atheist community today. A lot of the people I call debate me bros say things like philosophy is dead. It's science, science, science. Wouldn't surprise me if Richard Dawkins himself said something akin to, what do I care what some guy in a toga said 2,000 years ago? I'm a scientist. Neil deGrasse Tyson has literally said, philosophy is over, it's only science. The problem is, it's been a whole school of thought that began with Hume. It had a logical flowering in logical positivism. Logical positivism came and went. And then had also Comte was heavily influential. Not Comte, C-O-M-T-E. It's the idea that we can have a metaphysic, that there are no metaphysics. Let's be skeptical of metaphysics. Why? Because we can't prove them. So they aren't there. Metaphysics are off the table. The problem is, and it's a really big philosophical problem. First of all, logical positivism came and went. Why? Because it's self-refuting. Really obviously self-refuting. Go. One YouTube click will tell you why. I don't really want to get into it. It's not worth talking about. Came and went. Scientism is still with us. It is the philosophy that philosophy is over. We only need science. It's the philosophy. You see how that's self-refuting right there? That's self-refuting. That's why there's a lot of incoherent mumbo jumbo that comes out of atheist land. The one that I was debating the guys on, arguments aren't evidence. That's a cuckoo land idea. Why on earth would anybody make an argument about anything under the sun ever if it wasn't to evidence some claim or some proposition? Short answer, they wouldn't. It's an incoherent idea. Arguments aren't evidence, and yet a lot of people defend it. What they technically mean is it's not empirical evidence, because that's the only thing that they think qualifies as evidence. You see? They even literally said it to me. I said thought experiments were used by Einstein all the time Famously so, to do what? To evidence his claims and his propositions. Hello. It's a form of argumentation. They said, were they empirically verified for? Huh? How on earth is that supposed to work, guys? Both two guys I was debating, ostensibly intelligent guys. And the guy, Dr. Matthew Hunt, as I've said, it's like debating an intelligent jigsaw puzzle. Why? Because he doesn't have any coherent philosophy or metaphysics. If you do not actively construct a metaphysical prior or a philosophical prior, your brain will construct one for you. Why? Because it's trying to make coherent sense of the world. Kantianism in a nutshell. You have your sense data. That's the stuff out there. You plug it into yourself, into your philosophical priors, your a priori assumptions about the world. Everybody has them. Most of the time you get them from your community at large. As I said, the reason I was a liberal Democrat for hundreds of years is that everyone in my town, my family, my community was a liberal Democrat. I grew up in Westchester County, right outside of New York City. It's just the norm. You adopt it as your paradigm of reality without even thinking about it. Why? Because you get your reality, when you're growing up, you get your reality from your peers. My friends were my world. They said 48 Hours is a great movie. Guess what I said? 48 Hours is a great movie. And sometimes it turned out they were right. Pink Floyd The Wall is the great album. Pink Floyd The Wall is a great album. And sometimes they were right. Sometimes their view on reality, their priors, corresponded to reality and were coherent and defensible and made sense. Liberal Democrat, up to a point. The only thing I'm pointing out is that you just sort of adopt those as your paradigm of reality. You don't question it. Why? Because until you're like 23 years old, you don't deconstruct. You can deconstruct from being a Democrat too. Same way you deconstruct from being a Christian. You pull it out in the cold light of day and examine it. Democrats say X is X true. And then you start, if you're an intelligent person, finding qualifiers. The only thing that my form of presuppositional apologetics is designed to do is to get you to examine your priors, take them out in the cold light of day and examine them and go, are these coherent? Are they justifiable? Do they make sense? Why is this a slam dunk? Why am I going to send Stephanie to go literally Old Testament on your ass, crush you in a debate? Because every intelligent atheist is already doing this. Every intelligent atheist, every philosophical-minded atheist, every atheist who thinks clearly and cogently already does this. Now, there's been a trend in science where actual scientists say philosophy is over. Okay? I don't want to get too complicated, but pure science tells us nothing about what nature actually is. It does nothing to say about metaphysics. Science tells us what nature does. It builds models to predict outcomes. So science is agnostic on what metaphysics. But buried into the conclusions of science, particularly with quantum mechanics, are obvious philosophical implications. And some fit the data points and some don't. If your philosophy is inconsistent with the science, your philosophy is wrong. Period. Throw it out, junk it. Why? It's mistaken. And as we get more precise, a lot of the things I'm saying in this video are really interesting and worth noting and very perceptive, but also borderline irrelevant. I swear to God, if I'm right, the ground will shift underneath us, unbeknownst to us, and not because of us. In other words, there are physicists dealing in physics right now, correct? Anything I debate somebody on YouTube about physics is going to be completely irrelevant to that process, right? But but that process is going to get way out ahead of us, way out ahead of the curve, and we're going to have to eventually respond to whatever the scientists find out is the truth about physics. Same idea. The stuff I'm telling you right now, I'm almost positive is right. I can evidence for it up the wazoo. I can justify it robust through the roof. And if I'm not that convincing with this particular video, 5 videos from now, forget it. Forget it. I'm going to send Stephanie out, as I said, to kick your ass. And you'll never see her coming. Why? she's a Christian. Stephanie, trust me on this. It's a slam dunk. Not doing it, Greg. Still sounds like word salad to me. Okay, so why? You'll never see her coming. Why? Because she's a girl. Ergo, we can write her off. She's a Christian. Ergo, she's stupid. And then she's going to announce, I'm doing precepts. And everyone's going to be like, I'll laugh my ass off. Then she's going to take a piece of humble pie and go, pow! Right in your arrogant, stupid face, whoever you may be. That's the plan. We'll see if Stephanie follows through with it. That's the plan so far. It's a good plan, Greg. I like it. But anyways, getting back to the issue at hand. The thing that the presuppers are actually correct about, and it's rooted in Kantianism, they have a tagline that pushes the needle too far. God is the precondition of intelligibility. Now, I already did my joke with Luke. Luke is the atheist. Luke, what is your atheist worldview? How do you justify it? And he answers me, eggs, green salad, black, white, Craig. Okay, that's unintelligible, Luke. See, but he didn't actually say it. You get it? See, I'm trying to cheat. I'm pretending he said it so I can cheat. See, atheists is unintelligible. So they're not right. But what are the because they push the argument too far, past what the evidence suggests. In all evidentiary apologetics, almost every apologist makes this mistake. This is why William Lane Craig is good and not great. Why? Because he always shoehorns the argument into an argument for God, whether it fits or not. Evidentiarism suggests that you go no further than the evidence suggests or evidences or proves. If you do that, you can't lose. But if you push it further, then you're out into speculation land. And you're going to lose the debate. You didn't prove anything. You're out there and you're speculating. So, what the presuppositionalists are 100% correct about is the preconditions of intelligibility. There is something known as the Platonic realm. Now, I'm going to use shorthand versions of what these things mean, my own qualifiers, my own definitions, just so that to avoid confusion. Whatever Plato originally meant back in Plato's Republic with the forms and all that, I'm not talking about. When I say Platonic in today's lexicon, it is roughly translated in to ascribe reality to the transcendent realm. So if you say someone is a mathematical Platonist, what does it mean in that context? It means they think numbers are real, numbers exist. Now, for the atheist, and the debate is not between me and the atheist. Like I said, intelligent philosophical atheists are generally speaking more allied to me than opponent. I promise. I get along with them really well. I always thought I was going to get along with atheists really well. The reason why I didn't, because there's a whole bunch of tribal douchebags that get in your face. There's a whole bunch of tribal douchebags that I wasn't expecting. Here, come to my channel. Let's tell me what you believe. Okay, great, fine. And then they try to freaking upend you and jujitsu you the entire time, and you're not conversing about it. I wasn't expecting those guys. Like, what on earth is wrong with you, dude? Just let me tell you my religious experiences. What's your problem? If you don't want to listen, don't listen. But you can't jujitsu my opinions out of existence. That's what they try to do. They try and play jujitsu games with you and mind games to try and get you to I don't know. It's one thing for you not to believe me. I'm perfectly willing to, if I tell you these are my religious experiences and this is what they mean to me, you've got a perfectly cogent response. I don't believe you, Craig. Okay, fine. I don't believe it's actually God. Fair enough. But there's a third option that a lot of atheists look for. I'm going to undermine your position and, hold the mirror up to you and mentally jujitsu to show you that you don't believe yourself. I do believe myself. That's the problem. It doesn't work. Why? That's why I get mad when people start doing it. Why? Because I 100% believe in my own experiences. I wouldn't be here talking to you. 100% believe in their reality. 100%. No ifs, ands, or buts. The problem is making a cogent argument out of a spiritual experience. Why? It's by definition first person subjective. It's hard to it's hard to bridge that gap between my subjective internal personal experience and your third person understanding. They didn't say that all that well, but you know exactly what I mean. That's why I've struggled so long to turn that into an argument that I can just send Stephanie out and go, pow! Stephanie, pow! Right in your face! If you keep listening to New Kids on the Block, you're going to burn in hell! You're going to burn in hell! It's of the devil, I tell you, Stephanie. Why do you keep bringing that up for? It's of the devil. I'm trying to warn them, Craig. You're too easy on these guys. They're atheists because they just want us in. They want to listen to New Kids on the Block. That's why they're atheists. And they want to get away with it. Okay, first of all, what's the New Kids on the Block thing? It's of the devil. All right. Stephanie, honestly, I'm not always sure that you're helping. Well, too bad. You're too easy on these guys. If you listen to New Kids on the Block, you're going to burn in hell. Why, Stephanie? Because of the devil, as I said already. Don't you listen, Greg? You're going to word salad, mumbo jumbo, cut to the chase. Stop listening to New Kids on the Block. All right, Stephanie. Fair enough. Can I go back to my video, please? Yeah, go ahead. Sorry. My bad. I just, I'm really fired up about it. I'm really passionate. I can see that. New Kids on the Block is really evil, Craig. It's corrupting young minds. They're focusing on Who's the guy in New Kids on? What are they even names? Jimmy Jams, Jimmy Junk. I don't remember. All right, anyways, enough of that little sideshow. I don't remember what the guys' names of New Kids on the Block are. Did anybody remember? They are of the devil. Stephanie's probably correct about that. So if you are an atheist and you're staying an atheist because you still want to listen to New Kids on the Block, two things. Relax. Stephanie won't let you because you're going to burn in hell. I say, it's probably harmless. It's not harmless. It's evil. Okay, Stephanie won't let you. So you got good Pastor Craig and bad Pastor Stephanie. You pick. Whose church you go to? They're coming to ride. Anyways, okay, so back to the thing. The preconditions of intelligibility are located in the transcendent realm. The a priori assumptions are located in the transcendent realm, and you have to make some sort of peace with them. Now, you can be a Platonist, which you probably won't be as an atheist, because that's the least consistent with atheism. Or, more precisely, you could be a nominalist or a Neoplatonist of sorts. What does that mean? With these certain pre-qualifiers and these preconditions, I ascribe some reality somewhere to the transcendent realm. That's what it means in mathematics. That's a rough translation to what it means in philosophy. And you have to. You have to, because the transcendent realm is the precondition of intelligibility. They are correct about that. You cannot do science without math. Can't. And you cannot do science, you cannot do math unless you a priori assume the mathematical axiom is true. Why? Because you cannot empirically verify for it. It is transcendent, immaterial, invisible. Ergo, outside of space and time. So it doesn't work. I'm going to empirically, that's why the guys were saying cuckoo land questions. Talked about thought experiments, and they both said, can you empirically verify them? What on earth are you talking about? Because in their jumbled pretzel salad were like, the problem with your priors, okay, I'll go to math in a sec. Okay, let me finish the math thought. I'm going fast, I understand, but a lot of you can process this. I understand I'm going really fast and this is a lot, but I'm telling you my audience is getting this, I can tell. You have to assume the mathematical axiom in order to use the mathematical axiom. Gödel's incompleteness theorem basically proved that. So you have to assume it to use it. It is axiomatic, which means self-evident. There's no empirically verifying for it whatsoever. Now the problem, or not the problem, but the question for the atheist, or the thing the atheist does need to consider, is that the transcendent realm is the precondition of intelligibility. You have to make your peace with it somewhere along the way. You can be an in-between, nuanced, philosophical atheist, which is a nominalist. As I said a few times, someone who has, with certain qualifiers and certain preconditions, ascribes some reality to the transcendent realm somewhere along the way. Why? Because it's a precondition of intelligibility. This word starts to sound like word salad, Craig, just so you know. I think you're much better off just warning about New Kids on the Block. Okay. Please don't listen to New Kids on the Block. Please, it's really, really evil stuff. I know it seems harmless, but trust me, you're gonna burn if you touch it. It's bad. It's evil. It's evil, right? So yeah, evil. Now you talk my language. Put that New Kids on the Block down. All right, so preconditions of intelligibility. I just proved it in math. You cannot do science without math. You have to assume a mathematical axiom in order to use a mathematical axiom. That's Gödel's incompleteness theorem. It is axiomatic, self-evident. Now, I can also prove it. You cannot do philosophy if your philosophy is there's no such thing as philosophy. All it means is interpretive framework. There's a lot of different ways people define it, but one clear definition. So quantum mechanics is science. Interpretations of quantum mechanics are what? Philosophy. Bang. Philosophy. It's not science. It's philosophy. It's interpretation. This is why science is coming back to the idea, most famously by Carlo Rovelli, who's a great physicist and a decent philosopher. Why did he start delving into philosophy? Because he recognized you can't make sense of the data without philosophy. You have to teach yourself how to think clearly. And the only way you can do that is to draw upon, first of all, the reason why we're talking about a guy in a toga 2,000 years ago, Plato and Aristotle, is because they helped to formulate our ideas about reality. Laws of logic, Aristotle, the Platonic realm, Plato. You cannot make cogent sense of the world without dipping into the Platonic realm somewhere along the way, with some qualifiers and preconditions if you want to be nuanced and precise and be a scientist and philosophical and an atheist in this context meaning just don't believe in God. But you have to do it a little. You have to take your metaphysical priors out in the cold light of day and examine them and ask yourself some questions about them. Are these robust? Are these defensible? Do they make clear and coherent sense? Now, let me underscore it from a different way just to make sure this is crystal clear obvious. I've used the example of math. Here's a really interesting example from the mind-body problem, the brain-mind problem. How I noticed this, first off, two ways. First of all, when I first heard of Thomas Nagel and his famous What It's Like to Be a Bat, the first question I asked myself is, isn't that interesting? Wonder how he stays an atheist. It's the first question I asked myself. He has a reconciliation. It's called Neoplatonism. That's what he describes himself as. It is some sort of compromised middle ground, not between theism and atheism, more precisely between theism and logical positivism. More precisely between theism and the idea, mathematical fictionalism, or any variation thereof. A lot of times atheists land on the weakest philosophies on the table. Why? Because they intuitively understand that they are more consistent with atheism. So if you ask people who don't really think about it, what are you mathematically, philosophically? They'll say mathematical fictionalist. And it's only when they try to defend the position where they realize it's incoherent, it makes no sense, and almost no physicist is one. Why? Because it's incoherent, it makes no sense. Try doing physics with mathematical fiction, you can't. And then you just say, what are you in terms of philosophy? They'll say, my philosophy is I have no philosophy. The reason why logical positivism came and went is that's basically it in a nutshell. My metaphysics are there are no metaphysics. If you declare that, your brain concocts a metaphysics for you to make coherent sense of the world, and it's all jumbled and all over the place. Can't be done. The preconditions of intelligibility are to have clear and precise metaphysics. They can be nuanced. Okay? The reason why this is a slam dunk is all intelligent atheists do this automatically. They do. They do it automatically. The reason why I know it's a slam dunk is that's why Emerson Green started becoming a panpsychist. Why? Is panpsychist right? Wrong question. Don't know. Is it robust and defendable? Up to a point. There may be defeaters for the position, but it's robust and defendable up to a point. It is more defendable than physicalism. For example, physicalism for my money, now I switched to philosophy of mind. I apologize for going so quickly. Okay, in philosophy of mind, the question on the table is the hard problem of consciousness. Consciousness seems in principle irreducible, strictly physical properties. Okay, that's the hard consciousness in a nutshell. The reason why a smart guy like Emerson Green became a panpsychist is he recognized that that was true. And he's trying to reconcile it. So he examined physicalism as a possible metaphysic to reconcile it and said, this is the weakest option on the table. Why? Because there are some things where it literally seems irreducible. Most atheists don't study the problem. They have a tagline. Oh, emergent property of the brain, it's easy. Okay, that just tells me you don't know the problem. It's not that easy. If you think it's easy, you don't know the problem. I swear to God. It's easy to come up with justifications and robust justifications for some of the other positions. But if you think it's so easy to state that physicalism is the most robust of those, you haven't studied the problem. Why? Because it isn't. The reason why Bernardo Castro became an idealist is he came up, as a scientist, came up against the hard problem of consciousness and recognized that science was off in the wrong direction. They were going off an outmoded paradigm, physicalism/materialism. So he wrote a book, Materialism Baloney. Because he switched priors, he switched metaphysics. Why? Because that's one way of reconciling it. It's probably the most successful way. In quantum mechanics, as I've explained, I don't want to pile too much in here, but in quantum mechanics, as I've already explained, okay, I think, and this is why I say most of this stuff, whether you agree with me or not, is irrelevant. Why? Because if I'm right, the paradigm of science is going to shift within 20 years. Why? Because physicalism/materialism, dead and buried quantum mechanics it can't be reconciled to quantum mechanics. Quantum mechanics ain't all that trippy and mysterious. It's just impossible to reconcile with physicalism/materialism. Why? Because it doesn't work. At the quantum level, the chair in front of me has standalone ontology and is an actual chair. At the quantum level, the measurement problem, one way of defining it is that when I look at the chair, when I interact with the chair at the quantum level, I am slightly altering the data points. Now, we don't think of the real material world as operating that way, but that's what the science actually says. That's what the physics actually say. So I have to be some type of idealist in order to make coherent sense of the data points. Why? Then this goes back to Kant again. Kant was really onto a lot of stuff. As a experience in consciousness, I look at the thing in front of me, chair, right? What I'm doing, I'm not seeing the thing in itself, chair. Why? Because there's a discrepancy between chair as it presents itself to me in consciousness. I re-represent it back to myself. That's true. Now you have two. Wow, this is going to get really complicated. But let me pile this in there just to put it in there. Okay, you got two people who know this data point for a fact, and they've come to different conclusions on it. One erroneously, the other correctly. The one correctly, Donald Hoffman. The one erroneously, Emil Seth. Emil Seth walked into studying philosophy of mind with the preset metaphysical prior, physicalism/materialism. So he studies the data points and comes to the conclusion, but it's motivated reasoning. Why? Because him and Donald Hoffman will tell you the exact same thing that I just told you. We re-represent reality back to ourselves. That's not in dispute. That's a fact. We take educated guesses at the world in front of us and what we think is going to be there, and we re-represent it back. We don't actually see what's there. There is a discrepancy between the actual and our re-representation. That's fact. That fact is only reconcilable to idealism, a form of idealism, intelligent, nuanced form of idealism, but idealism nonetheless. Most people think idealism is like you look at the table and you can make it do tricks. You can use your brain. I don't even know what they think idealism is. All it means is consciousness itself is your ontological primitive, your first look at everything. So you have an experience of chair in consciousness. That's how you view chair. Okay, there's a material substrate chair, and you aren't seeing exactly that. You are re-representing yourself back to yourself with a slight difference. Do you get it now? Let me move on. No, we don't get it. No, we don't get it all. All right, fine. Let me move on anyways. All right, but no, I'm going too fast, but you know, some of you are sharp, some of you are actually getting this, and some people are actually loving this. Promise. And if I'm going too fast, just play the video back over again. I promise you it's all cogent, makes sense. Word sound! No, it's not word sound. Promise. Getting to the second thing. Okay, the most important thing. You have to draw upon the transcendent realm somewhere, somehow. You have to make a reconciliation with it. In math, they call it nominalism. In mathematics, you have to do it though, period. Why? Because it is where your sense-making apparati are located, in the transcendent realm. Now, let me show you, let me evidence the mind-brain problem from a different way so you see it clearly. There's a person named Shannon, for example, okay? Shannon's pretty good at philosophy of mind. If she wants to become great, Shannon, if you want to become great, I don't know if you're listening, but you're going to have to know panpsychism and idealism cold. You can't just write them off. You don't have to agree with them, but you have to be able to cogently explain them precisely. Why? Because other than that, you're not going to dazzle us with your intellect. Just prattling off neurological correlates isn't good enough. You have to understand the philosophy underneath. You do, and you're way smart enough to understand it. She's the most intelligent atheist probably of the bunch. I swear to God, she's really smart. She listened to her rattle off the neurological correlates. It's like I used to know this guy Mark Gorman who rattled off baseball statistics like you couldn't even believe. How on earth are you processing all that? He's doing the same thing. But you have to know the philosophy too. So you should get Philip Goff on your channel, and you should get Bernardo Kastrup on your channel, and just understand their positions. Just talk to them, have a typical Shannon-type conversation, a cool, nuanced conversation, just to clarify their positions. Because you should be able to regurgitate their positions, period. Other than that, you're not doing it correctly. You could be great. You want to dazzle us? You want to be great? Or you want to be eh? Do you want to be great? Do you want to razzle-dazzle us with your intellect? Yes or no? That's the only way you could do it. It's not optional. It's not optional. Why? Because John Buck will see through it if you don't do it otherwise. Right? Because he's really smart. I swear to God, he's a really smart kid. Sometimes like, what the hell? Slow down, dude. I swear to God, he's really smart. I swear to God, he's just like me when I was younger. And arrogant, too. You're arrogant, John. Shut up. Shut up, John. He's not even listening. That's how arrogant he is. Not even listening to my videos. The best videos in town, he's not even listening. Why? He's written me off. Why? Because I'm dumb when it comes to... He's a typical young, stupid kid. He thinks I'm dumb because I'm dumb about, like... He's got like... The same reason my wife thinks I'm dumb. I swear to God, my wife thinks I'm a moron. Why? Because I kind of am about... I really kind of am about certain things. You know, like, I'll make the joke... I might have already made the joke where she sees me, walking around the house bumping into things. That's why she takes so much. Goes, wow, Craig is really a mess. Pow! Oh, is the door there? Yeah, the door always been there. Yeah, the door's always been there, Craig. We didn't move it. Oh, okay, my bad. Pow! Ow! Was there always a door there? Yeah, there's always a door there, Craig. So she goes, wow, he's a moron. And I always say, you should hear me on quantum mechanics. She said, you always say the same thing, Craig. Anyways, funny little aside. So John Buck thinks I'm a moron. I swear to God he does. Why? Because I'm a moron. You see my videos? Technologically, yeah, boomer. Stupid. What background do I have right now? Is it really technologically unimpressive? Okay, yeah. I make it work for me. I'm like the Ramones of, I'm like the Ramones of YouTube. Lo-fi, never mind. Never mind. Huh, Ramones? I don't get it. Okay, never mind. Brilliant, dumb, brilliant, lo-fi. They came in with the amps that they carried out of the car, no technological prowess at all. Could barely play the instruments. Anyways, they called it DIY back in the day. Do-it-yourself music. That's what punk was originally about, or one of the original aesthetics. Do it yourself. Get up on stage. We don't need to play stinking instruments. That's for those pompous rock stars. We just get up on stage and we passionate, man. I hate your stinking society. I hate your stinking society. That's my punk rock song. Okay, so let's take the person Shannon. Now, you all understand that there's a unity. First of all, if we were just analyzing Shannon according to her physical properties of her brain, that'll always get us so far. Why? Because there's a unique and distinct personality there, Shannon. She's very Shannon-esque. Have you noticed that? Materially, she's indistinguishable from other females of her kind, correct? They're all made up of the same brain chemistry. But yet there's something uniquely different about her that makes her distinctly Shannon-esque, a unity of personality or unity of personhood, let's call it. Now, if you were looking for a neurological correlate to locate it to, you couldn't find one. Why? Because it's all of them acting together and it transcends, keyword, transcends any one individual physical neurological correlate. It's all of them acting together. If you were looking to locate it, you couldn't find it. Why? Because it would be everywhere and nowhere at the same time, transcendent. Now, let's say I took a photograph of Shannon. Once upon a time, Shannon had a job when she was 22 years old, her first job, right? Someone took a photograph. You dated yourself, Craig. What's a photograph? Okay. A photograph is based back in the day. Back in my day, we had a thing called the Polaroid camera. And you press the button and out would come a photograph. I know that sounds weird. That sounds really weird, Craig. Okay, so let's say somebody took a photograph of Shannon. Okay, her first job, she was 25 years old. And now she's what, 28? Okay, so her first job, and you see Shannon on the photograph, there's an image there. Your brain immediately understands, every human being listening to me immediately understands, yes, that's Shannon at her first job. There's a unity of personhood from the representation on the photo to the person Shannon today. Now, in order to make sense of that, you have already gone into the immaterial, invisible realm in order to cohere that. Why? Because according to the material facts of the thing in your hand, a literal materialist would literally go, let's analyze the thing in your hand and break down its material components, even though it's totally irrelevant to the image on the photo. What makes your brain coherently make sense of the image of the photo, go, yes, that is in fact Shannon at her first job. It's as if you stepped out of time, transcended through time, and looked around at her workspace then. Why? Because the photo is an accurate representation of the material facts in the room where she was then. But in order to make that coherent, so you immediately recognize, yes, that's Shannon. There's a unity of personhood through, whatever, the 10 years since the photo was taken and today. There's a unity of personhood over those 10 years, so I recognize that as Shannon. In order for you to make that coherent cognitive leap, you are delving into the immaterial realm. You are transcending. Period. Promise. I didn't say it that clearly, but you get it, right? In order, your sense-making apparatus are located in the transcendent, immaterial, invisible realm. You have to make some peace with it somewhere along the way. Why? It's just reality. As I said in math, you have to assume the mathematical axiom in order to use the mathematical axiom, hence the word axiomatic, self-evident. You cannot make coherent sense of science without math. You cannot make coherent sense of a unity of personhood of somebody like Shannon without, it's as if you are delving into the immaterial, timeless realm. You are in essence becoming, for perceptual reasons and cognitive reasons, timeless. It's as if you went back and looked at her in that little snapshot of life then and said, aha, that's Shannon. I recognize her. I recognize Shannon right there. There she is working at her job. She's doing a good job. What a good little princess. Or a good little, I don't know. What were you working in? What was your first job? She's probably not listening. What was your first job, Shannon? What was that? You sound like Stephanie. Sound exactly like Stephanie. You only do one voice, Craig. It's getting really weird. Sound exactly like Steph. What a coincidence. Stephanie. Yeah. Are you like Shannon? Very similar. I only do one voice, one female voice. That's the only voice, that's the only character I got. So it gets a little confusing, can't help it. But you get the point, right? In essence, you are transcending time. You are traveling back in time. The image is a snapshot of an image then. And you're looking at a room of material facts lined up then. The material facts in your hand are irrelevant to that process. The actual photograph, the material substrate of the photo itself, totally irrelevant, immaterial. Get it? Immaterial, part of the pun, but it's immaterial, it's irrelevant. A lot of the presuppositions of materialism slash physicalism, this is why atheists fall apart on metaphors, they fall apart on symbolic thinking, and they tend to fall apart on analogies. Why? Because they have overvalued a certain type of thinking. Logical. Hence the word logical positivism. Also overvalued a certain type of thinking. Why? Because they think it's scientific. But your sense-making apparati, the thing that actually makes science coherent, are located in the transcendent realm, where me and the spiritual people are comfortable in the transcendent realm, where you touch and you feel and you woo-woo. Yeah, woo-woo artistry. That's what they call it, woo-woo. You touch and you feel and you woo-woo-woo, woo-woo. Oh, this is where I feel so much in this transcendent realm. But your perceptual apparatus and your sense-making apparati make use of the transcendent realm all the time, or you couldn't cohere thoughts. Materially speaking, the picture in my hand, materially speaking, the material substrate of the photo in my hand is irrelevant to the representation of Shannon then and Shannon now. The unity of personhood is immaterial to the material. Period. I swear to God. Period. End of discussion. You gotta see it, you gotta get it. There was a good enough explanation that if you don't get it, debate me, bro, or Stephanie, go debate. I'll kill you. I'll take that humble pie, shove it right here, ugly little face. Pow! Pow! Did you get that one, Stephanie? I think I got that one. I'll kill him. I'll kill him. Stop listening to New Kids on the Block. We are burning hell. I'll take that humble pie, shove it right here, ugly little stupid little face. Pow! Pow! Go get him, Stephanie. Swear to God, I'm not going to debate you in public. Why? I don't care. I don't care what you think about anything. If you didn't get that, that's on you. I admit I talked fast and it wasn't that clear, but it's right. It's essentially correct. In essence, correct. You cannot make sense. The preconditions of intelligibility are in fact located in the Platonic realm. You have to make your peace with it, even as an atheist. Somewhere along the way, a nominalist does the trick for you. It means with these qualifiers and these preconditions, I nominally assent to the reality of the transcendent realm here and there with these pre-qualifiers. That's what it means in math. You can transfer that definition into philosophy too if you want. It makes the same, it works just as well. But you have to do it a little. Now, why is this a slam dunk? Why is Stephanie going to go old? She's not going to have to go Old Testament on your ass, I promise. So everyone calm down. If you're worried about listening to New Kids on the Block, relax. I was really scared though, Craig, because I really like New Kids on the Block. And Stephanie wants to send me to hell. I understand. Okay, deep breaths. Okay, Stephanie, tell me you're not. No, well, never mind. Okay, deep breaths. If you're worried about Stephanie sentencing you to hell and going Old Testament on your ass because you listen to too much New Kids on the Block, relax. Okay, relax. Take a deep breath. New Kids on the Block, Stephanie, I'm not going to even let her answer because she'll tell you it's of the devil. I'm good pastor right here, okay? I'm telling you, it's of the devil, sure, but everyone's doing it. Just try it a little. Just don't do it too much. Yeah, it's a little of the devil. It's pretty demonic, I understand. It's demonic, I understand. So, you get it? Even in perceptuals, I don't know what so far I don't think there's a branch of philosophy that explains clearly what I was talking with unity of personhood. There are some Christian apologists who, Eric Hernandez has a couple of really good thought experiments that kind of illustrate the concept from a different angle. Some of his thought experiments are great. He's the person who actually got me started on philosophy of mind because I watched him in the debate with Matt Dillahunty. If he structured his debate properly, he wouldn't lose. He'd kill you, but he keeps structuring it to say this proves a soul, and then it doesn't. You have to, if you're an evidentiarist, you got to tone it down. Only argue what the evidence suggests. Then you can't be defeated. Then you are shopping around an apologetic that is virtually unassailable. It doesn't prove that much, but be satisfied with that. I'm not proving anything. Did I prove God to anybody? No. See? No. We're listening to New Kids on the Block, dude. We're psyched because you didn't do it. You didn't prove it. I'm going to turn on that New Kids on the Block and I'm going to party. Why? See? I didn't prove anything to anybody. Why? Because you got to tone it down in order to, evidentiary apologetics is just that. Go no further than the evidence suggests. Then it's a slam dunk, but it doesn't move the needle the whole way. That's why I moved to precepts. You got to get at the precepts. Now, if you are an atheist, I didn't prove God to you. Correct? Okay. Then try. What you need to do is become more like the philosophical atheist. Take your metaphysical priors, your prior assumptions about how the world operates, your philosophical priors, if you will, take them out in the cold light of day and examine them. Why is this a slam dunk? Because something you already should have been doing. All atheists say this paradigm, and I agree with this paradigm a lot. I want to proportion my beliefs to the evidence, and I decide on my confidence level. My confidence level directly corresponds to the evidence. Okay, that's a great paradigm of reality. So you take your beliefs out in the cold light of day and you examine them. Are these robust and defensible? Are they coherent? Do they make sense? Are they justifiable? That's the only thing you should be asking yourself. Asking yourself, are they true? It's misleading. Because that's where fundamentalist comes from. The intelligent young earth creationist thinks it's true. So they ignore evidence to the contrary. They ignore the evidence. What you should be asking yourself is this defensible? Not is it true? Is it robust? Is it justifiable? Is it defensible? The intelligent atheists do this already. That's why Emerson Green has a nuanced in-between position. He's still an atheist and he doesn't believe in God, but in his metaphysics, he's coming to a different conclusion because he took a look at the hard problem of consciousness and decided I need to shift my metaphysical priors in response to this. Why? Because it's that challenging. It's that vexing. He's correct. I think he's correct. You could probably argue physicalism, but I generally think it's the weakest option on the table. I really do. And so does Emerson Green. That's why he started moving towards panpsychism. Now, you could debate panpsychism. I don't think panpsychism and idealism, I think they could easily be part and parcel of the same thing. And there's a lot of information we don't have about where consciousness is actually located. So some of this we don't know yet. And that's why some of these conversations are going to be irrelevant. Why? Because what I'm predicting is a paradigm shift in science itself. If that happens, game over. It's not going to prove God. Nobody's going to start believing in God. But the logical outcome of the thought patterns of the 20th century, what produced a lot of atheists. So a lot of them are just going to disappear. They're going to have some other way of reconciling to reality. I don't know what they'll call themselves. The Four Horsemen's influence is waning already. There's not a lot of robust philosophy going on with them. They aren't that deep. They really aren't. They're not. Richard Dawkins ain't all that great of a thinker. He's not. He's one of the ones who's a scientismist. He'd be the first person to tell you philosophy is dead. I'm a scientist. Okay, the reason why we draw upon the well of Plato and Aristotle from 2,000 years prior is that in order to make coherent sense of the world, we have to. They were onto something really big. If you are not actively constructing your philosophical priors, your underpinnings, and thinking clearly, your brain starts to construct them for you, and you have a cognitive mess. You can think clearly as an atheist. That's the part that Dawkins doesn't seem to get. And you got to, when he's asking Shannon what her worldview is, he's got to actually let her answer. And if she says, I don't know, okay, fine. Shannon, are you a mathematical Platonist, realist, or fictionalist? I'm not sure, Craig. Okay, fine, fair enough. Think about it. You gotta kind of tone it down and let it go. If somebody says, I don't know, that's a perfectly legitimate answer. Sometimes they haven't thought about these things. Right? You understand that, right? So, anyways, I guess I'll stop. Stephanie, have I convinced you? I'm not even going to ask Stephanie at this point. I don't think she's convinced yet. See, I'm pretty sure she's not convinced yet. So, there you have it, kids. one more time why I'm going full on presuppositional. I forget what the girl called it. The girl actually labeled me that. Never watched a video of mine, never read a single tweet. She said Craig is a full on presup butthole or something like that. I was like, okay, fine. Full on presup butthole, there you go. So now I've done it.